We are introduced as a woman could be seen drawing up something all by herself in a library, where she is suddenly met face to face with our main character. He suddenly mentions in confusion her name, questioning if she is the heroine. Our story begins in a private high school named Shubi. The name represents being one of the top schools in the prefecture. But also that's not all. Hajime is excitedly looking forward, as the love mav manga, which is extremely popular especially with the heroine named Aoi Akasaka, is rumored to be modeled after this school. With this information he enrolled without a second thought. Hajime Takashi arrived early in the school with a smile on his face, as he planned coming here 2 hours before the opening entrance ceremony. With an energetic mood he scours the school, praising it everywhere. He looks as if it's a holy ground. Although he still hasn't seen the main attraction, he pointed towards the resource room on the first floor of the south building, being a sacred place where Aoi-tan had her base operation just as mentioned in the story. He then wanders off where the resource room is. Upon arriving he excitedly opened the door announcing his arrival. But he is met with a short black-haired woman sitting, still writing something, which Kurokawa-tan seemingly looks at him with confusion. The room stood still in silence as Hajime mentions Aoi-tan's name, confusion her even more. He then panics, apologizing towards her, as he didn't expect anyone would be in this room. He nervously questions her intentions, which she explains having some time before the entrance ceremony, wanting to learn about the school details. As such she seeks permission. Hajime ponders of her being a new student that looks like the heroine on his favorite manga, although he suddenly gets questioned as Kurokawa wonders who this Aoi-tan is. Hajime subtly explained the name belonging to a character from a manga. He showed excitement of the manga he liked, calling it his favorite. He explains the contents of it having a touching scene and being a masterpiece called Love Mav, explaining each detail. Kurokawa on the other hand looks at him, locked in questioning to go on with his words. But then Hajime suddenly stopped as he understood the dreadful look she's giving, as those eyes is filled with destine. He sweats nervously as he suddenly stormed out of the resource room, confusing Kurokawa. As Hajime got away from the situation he sits down under the stairway, pondering about his stupid actions, as he ultimately planned to hide his otaku side in high school, but he revealed being one to a female freshman due to her looking like the Aoi-tan in his favorite manga. This pushed him to end up showing his creepy otaku side to her. He tried brushing off his worries as he might never get to see her, as Shubi is a huge high school, putting his chances of meeting her for the next 3 years is slim. But to his surprise he sat in the classroom right next to her. Seemingly he showed signs of nervousness, staring blankly as he couldn't believe the situation he's in right now. He couldn't accept the chances of them meeting. He suddenly became nervous as rumors might spread around him being a creepy otaku, repeating the previous nightmare cycle all over again back in middle school. He thought of this situation, otherwise pondering as she might have forgotten already about him. But upon a closer look at her she glances at him with dreadful eyes, whispering she found her. This made Hajime startled as he observed her standing up and leaving the classroom in silence. Hajime became anxious but also worried as her gaze earlier becomes a sudden threat, seemingly planning to use him as a source of entertainment, all because he's nothing but a gross otaku. He questions how much is her ransom, as her idea is like a mafia waiting to extort him. Hajime suddenly overheard a woman standing up, not believing the words that came out of Kurokawa. He looks at her with confusion as he heard his classmates crowded together saying all the same things about the words that came out. They all cheered, but Hajime breaks the silence, questioning if Kurokawa is an amazing person. They became enraged as he only addressed her as Kurokawa, correcting his words describing her. Kurokawa is said to be the granddaughter of the chairman, one of the top rich families. Along with her status, she also excels in both academics and sports, being both beautiful and talented. Many people enrolled in the school just because of her. They stand firm as it's outrageous for an unknown commoner to sit right next to her, leaving Hajime to be in the spotlight, making him look bad in front of the other classmates. Unintentionally getting involved with a very important person, he wailed the corridor, pondering his anxiousness around his classmates, as they almost talk bad behind his back. Questioning if they're a cult, he suddenly got grabbed by Kurokawa as she looks at him with a hostile gaze, leaving him confused about her intentions. Alone in the room, she stands creepily greeting him, forced by his circumstances as the pressure from her is unresistible, especially belonging to a super rich family, not being able to imagine what kind of threats she makes. He obliged silently to her demands. Their awkward interaction is filled with silence, startling Hajime as she seemingly is not doing anything although she's trying to get the words out of her mouth. She then exclaims with confidence, asking for the manga Love Mad to be shown to her. She stood firm on her curiosity upon hearing his words, which she demands seeing it. Hajime all along misunderstood her from the start, as her eyes from before wasn't full of disdain, but a person locked in and interested in his words. He responds to her demands, but unfortunately he reveals not having it on him right now. Although she seemed to misunderstood his words being full of lies, he tried calming her down by explaining bringing mangas to school is against the rules. Met with disappointment, Hajime questions if she likes the manga. She then revealed of never having to read on ever in her life, as her life is just a straightforward strict reality. Being the granddaughter of the chairman, she has to live up to their expectations, especially with her classmate. With this, she is forced to excel in her studies, leaving her to always hold back and try her best around them. But in reality, she wanted to have freedom on doing things she likes. And seeing Hajime act like without a care in the world, she became envious of his circumstances, as she also wanted to experience his carefree nature. But faced with reality, she can't, and not having any solution to it, she doesn't want to push him on doing it for her. Although thankful for listening to her story, she apologizes for dragging him, suddenly asking to keep things a secret, especially with their conversation. As Hajime understood this and is planning to leave, he remembered her words of wanting to enjoy manga. He stopped in his tracks, turning around to face Kurokawa, questioning if she wants to enjoy manga secretly. Kurokawa doesn't seem to fully understand his words, which he then took out his phone, wanting to lend it to her while at school, as he has it on the manga reading app. He questions her if it's alright, which she doesn't seem to mind. Although she questions this manga app he's speaking of, Hajime looks at her helplessly as she seemed to be left out and has a lot to catch up on. He helped her put the app on her phone, which afterwards she seemed to be full of curiosity, looking at it with happiness. She couldn't seem to believe that manga is now appearing on her phone, looking like a child who just discovered the internet. She usually acts composed, but her excitement couldn't be held back towards the manga showing her true self, which she then questioned if it's weird about her getting all excited. Hajime doesn't agree, as he also had similar experience on his first ever bought manga, explaining otakus are happy creatures upon finding friends, and this made him glad that she finds joy as much as he does on mangas. He also promises to keep everything a secret between them, and shortly after left her, although he ponders if maybe his approach was a bit too forceful. His thoughts wander of not wanting to bother a girl who's trying so hard. Although he seemingly stopped as he was walking by on the spot in Love Manga where Awita and the heroine stopped the protagonist. He looks at this as it's never going to happen in real life. He then suddenly experienced the same exact scene as he was stopped by Kurokawa correcting him, as she explains of being always alone. And being with him is night and day, enjoying and learning much from him, making her happy. She is grateful of enrolling into this high school. Hajime, on the other hand, looks at her wondering if it's just a coincidence on what he's experiencing, as the exact words coming from her are exactly the words that pierced his heart in the story, just like right now. She then exclaims wanting to be friends with him, although it begs the question, will they be friends or lovers in the end? Hajime, surprised by her words, exclaims in a nervous voice of being an otaku. Although he doesn't seem to reject her offer, he officially became friends with Kurokawa-san, starting their fated encounter to be more than just a coincidence. The very next morning, Kurokawa is seen calling out for Hajime, with a loud and enthusiastic voice, speaking in front of everyone, shocking their classmates. This made everyone wonder what were his actions for Kurokawa to shout at him. They speculate him being scolded at or something even worse. Back at the school, Hajime is confronted by Kurokawa as she enthusiastically shared information on reading the manga New Love. They indulge in each other's passion, giving Hajime happiness and satisfaction of being able to share otaku stuff with one another. She then passionately talks about manga corporations being quite impressive, as originally these chapters were meant to be paid, although they're cleverly partnered with other companies to earn ad revenue as a way to provide it to customers for free. She exclaims one could be left behind as the world can change in a blink of an eye. When not paying attention to, this made Hajime ponders if she's an old woman stuck in a young person's body. Afterwards she questions when does the heroine appears in the story. Hajime looks at her anxiously. As revealed, the manga describes her oblivious towards this information. Hajime suggests that Kurokawa probably imagines that Aoi-tan is some kind of creature mascot. Hajime spoke out loud, questioning if she doesn't think that the heroine from Love Mav kinda resembles her. Upon hearing this, Kurokawa stands in silence as she exploded, calling out this suggestion a bunch of baloney. She exclaims not being cute and points out the heroine being way more charming than her. Hajime showed satisfactory as he is now glad and getting into the manga passionately, which made Kurokawa suddenly remembered Hajime's words of otakus being happy creature when they find friends that they could share and be themselves. A sudden realization came to Hajime as the place they're standing seems similar. Explained in Volume 5, Love Mav is a spot where they exactly are, is the heroine finding the cherry blossoms, pointing out the mixture with plum trees. Hajime desperately wanted to discuss the topic at hand, although he tried his best not to spoil it to her. He suggests talking about it next year, but is suddenly interrupted as Kurokawa calls out as she pointed out the plum trees mixed in with the cherry blossoms. Once again she reenacted the scenario said by the heroine from the love manga. Kurokawa, oblivious to this information, smiles happily towards Hajime, making him get a nosebleed from the overwhelming experience. He then afterwards asks Kurokawa to share her thoughts about the second chapter, which shortly after 6 days the day has finally arrived as Kurokawa gathered enough points to read the chapter 2, vividly remembering Hajime's words from that day. As she was about to start reading, a sudden scream could be heard loudly in the hallway, shocking personnel inside. The butler then barges in with immediate concern, questioning Kurokawa if she's alright, which she assured of sleep-talking, brushing off the issue at hand. Left alone, Kurokawa is met with a scene she seemingly couldn't forget, facing a wall, questioning her next course of action. The very next day, Hajime is seen could be walking, pondering about Kurokawa's thoughts about Chapter 2, when he suddenly gets grabbed by a timid and anxious Kurokawa, asking for a moment. Inside, she started explaining about the next chapter, but her face suddenly gets red, asking if there are any lewd scenes after the initial chapter. Hajime seems confused as he couldn't have possibly read something on what she is describing. Kurokawa insists, showing a picture as the page showed the heroine's chest midly exposed, confusing Hajime as he questions the normality of this picture. He immediately understood Kurokawa-san's innocence, as she has absolutely no tolerance for even the most mildly erotic content. Seeing Kurokawa-san still struggle of looking at a mildly exposed cleavage in a particular scene, Hajime stood still, unfazed by her, assuring every page of the love manga to be completely wholesome on every chapter. Kurokawa-san couldn't believe his words, as Hajime didn't expect Kurokawa to have a strong reaction to even the most vaguely ero manga content. With this in mind, he's determined to convince her that it's not like that, wanting her to keep reading more. But suddenly she exclaims if she did the same undressing scene as the heroine. This made Hajime stood in a dazed, basking in the beauty of Kurokawa, which she panics, asking to not thought about it too much. Kurokawa never expect to be shown of a shameless scene in the manga, which upon seeing it firsthand made her exclaim weird noises. Hajime understood this as he became worried, seeing her circumstances on leading with her stopping to read love manga anymore going forward. With quick thinking, he explains about fashion magazines showing swimsuits and little cleavage, although she pushed the idea of those magazines being targeted towards women. On the other hand, love manga is also read by men, exclaiming the manga must have an ulterior motive. Hajime still couldn't calm down as Kurokawa is pushing her innocence, as some fashions do exposes some cleavage, but can't look at them due to them being naughty. Hajime doesn't have time to be fawning over things, as it seems really impossible to persuade Kurokawa-san that love manga is wholesome. With a will there's a way, he pushes his confidence, putting the last question if he himself is also filled with ulterior motives reading love manga and seeing those midly exposed cleavages. He exclaims, also changing clothes, exposing his chest, questioning if this makes him naughty. This caught Kurokawa confused, as Hajime seemed to finally get her wavering towards him. Seeing the iron is hot, he strikes, pushing the idea of the heroine just changing clothes, squabbling, as the heroine is a character who doesn't enjoy showing herself exposed to the opposite gender. Exclaiming that thinking something differently just by some little exposed cleavage makes her the dirty-minded one. Kurokawa waved in revealing her foolishness, as she insists discard her impure thoughts on continuing the chapters. Hajime is happy that he seemed to convince her of the idea, although shortly after the bell rang. But suddenly Kurokawa seemed to flung her phone towards Hajime, missing him by a few inches. Surprisingly, the phone landed to another person, which upon a closer look, a teacher is seemingly asking if this is her phone. Kurokawa became nervous, as she seemingly can't answer straight, but it's saved by Hajime, as he claimed the phone belonging to him. Being scolded by Kurokawa walking while he looks at his phone, he gets called out for being an airhead. The teacher exclaims, understanding his age of adolescence, as she winked at them, asking to not showing naughty things to women, leaving Hajime shocked and Kurokawa staring at him blankly. The three became silent as Kurokawa dragged Hajime back into the room, confusing the teacher, leaving Hajime to apologize and beg for forgiveness, as the scene was a bit naughty after all. He cried, showing tears, although still fighting for the innocence of love manga, as among otakus it is focused more on cuteness. He then promises any of it won't betray Kurokawa's expectations. Kurokawa kneels down, fully understanding the situation, as she expects his words and affirmation towards love manga, leaving Hajime filled with assurance. Upon returning the phone, she apologizes for the words airhead being pointed towards him because of her clumsiness. Hajime expresses gratitude and happiness, as he would do anything, even as far shielding her from those words. He seemingly rizzed her with his words. Being nervous, he hurriedly left, heading to the classroom. Being left alone, Kurokawa-san seemed happy, as no one could have expected the Riz gods to bless Hajime, striking her heart and soul. In the classroom, Hajime is pondering about any clubs to join. Although he seems to completely forgot about them, he reminisces their time on the resource room discussing manga, pointing out it wasn't really a club activity. He looks over his shoulders, wondering if Kurokawa would join any clubs. Pondering the loneliness it would put him in, he immediately panics, as he's seen himself too dramatic. As such, he can't let Kurokawa see his pathetic sides anymore. He pointed out his luck and the miracle that she even talked to him after school, ultimately wanting to support and send her off with a smile. But unbeknownst to him, Kurokawa suggested opening up a manga research club. This completely stunned Hajime, as her secret of reading manga might get exposed to everyone, pondering if she changed her mind already. He ponders if she wants to make new otaku friends, degrading himself of not being good enough for her. Although with this in mind, he still wants to send her happily off to any club she desires. Hajime couldn't seem to get his words out of his mouth, as he apologizes for being surprised, as he didn't expect Kurokawa to be interested in that club. Kurokawa questions how to accept his words, making Hajime thought of something positive to say. With the immense strong feeling of pressure on him, she looks at her, making him think twice on lying with her. Although he seemed to question himself if he really has to lie in order to give her a positive response. With Kurokawa really wanting what she desires, he revealed not wanting her to join any clubs, with things being a couple of days having fun with each other. The thought of her straying away would make them have less time. Revealing his honest feelings, even though it might seem pathetic and selfish on his end, this words coming from him put Kurokawa happy, although she doesn't seem not have the courage to show her expression. With her back turned, she assured not joining any and wanting to spend more time with him. Leaving Hajime with fortunate news, she then immediately fell to her knees, as she was so relieved, making her lose strength in her legs, as she must be making a weird face, unable to face him. With her assurance of his opinions on joining clubs, she insists on going home, leaving Hajime to ponder that she only cared about his opinion from the start. Hajime called out to her, bidding farewell to see her tomorrow, leaving Kurokawa with a weird expression as she left happily with a smile on her face, seen by the people that looked up to him, although it still leaves Hajime to imagine the expression she was hiding. The next morning, as classes seemed to end, Kurokawa wanted to speak with Hajime about her thoughts on Chapter 3 when she suddenly gets interrupted by her fellow classmates asking about their problems, inexplicably leaving her out to not talk to Hajime, disturbing her peace as everyone looks at Hajime with disgust and gazes full of hatred. Ultimately bombarded with questions and inquiries, Hajime left, leaving Kurokawa all alone. With all her work done, she panics upon checking the time being late at night. She hurriedly ran to the resource room, wondering if Hajime is waiting for her arrival. Although upon opening the door she was met with disappointment, as he wasn't there. Although Hajime seemingly praises her for a good day's of work, leaving her shocked, questioning where he has been, he brushed it off as picking some flowers, although he must have waited for quite a while for her. They immediately got interrupted as the school closing, leaving them with unfinished business as Hajime part ways. This left Kurokawa with a bitter taste in her mouth, as she couldn't talk to him properly. On the way home, Kurokawa still ponders as she couldn't handle the situation earlier a bit more smoothly. Her words made her butler apologize, misunderstanding it for his driving. Later she explained messing up and ended up wasting another person's time for no good reason. She ponders if there's any other way to make it better. The butler suggests sending an email towards the person, although she isn't up to date as students doesn't really use emails anymore. She praises the person teaching her so much, and it will feel strange for her to keep up appearances going forward. With a sad look on her face, she exclaims of not wanting to be labeled as someone who isn't in touch with reality. The butler suddenly had the idea of having the lady download the Talk app on her smartphone, exclaiming its popularity among her youth these days as a way to communicate. This suddenly sparked Kurokawa, as the next day she couldn't be seen in her seat, although Hajime is yet faced again with a serious and old Kurokawa confronting him early in the morning. She became serious, upon questioning if he has the same app as her, although she immediately became confused as she seemingly cut off at such a weird spot. The Talk app is discussed as the two of them became intrigued, as apparently Hajime also didn't know such app existed. This made Kurokawa happy as they both discovered something new, although she apparently left Hajime in the dust with a confused look on his face. Kurokawa, upon going home, suddenly realized that she forgot to achieve her goal, becoming nervous and struck with the sad revelation as she completely forgot about her task at hand, which is rare for a lady like her. At that time she exclaims, being so happy that they were the same in a level kind of sense, which explained that her happiness overshadowed her forgetting about her goal. This made the butler became shocked by her sudden words. The next day at school, Kurokawa is seemingly being avoided by Hajime as she seems left out and gazing from afar. She suddenly realized this, as whenever she's around with their classmates Hajime knows to keep boundaries, which made Kurokawa try reaching towards Hajime but to no avail, leaving her. Kurokawa realized that her voice couldn't reach Hajime. Although going forward she insists on using the communicating app called Talk, making Hajime stand up surprised, questioning if it's really alright. Kurokawa doesn't seem to mind this as she couldn't confidently approach him earlier. This made her question if Hajime likes the idea, which he exclaims loving to communicate on the phone. Their first exchange of messages occurred with Hajime facing a long but sincere message. As he was reading and trying to understand, he became relaxed all of a sudden, expressing his thoughts, praising her for also finishing up on the Chapter 3 release of the love manga. Kurokawa is now finally showered with joy as she managed to get out of the thoughts and feelings she wanted to talk about. She seems excited as the whole time she kept quiet, although with a cute look on her face. This gave the idea that they will be messaging the whole day through text, leaving Hajime still feel pleasure by having her talk to him every day. After school, Kurokawa is panicking over a spider. which Hajime sees as the perfect recreation scene on the love manga, making him teared up as his eyes and ears drool a form of snot, which made Kurokawa worried and concerned as he seemingly got overwhelmed. She suddenly mentioned midterms exams coming up, asking him to take it easy, which in that exact moment Hajime questioned the school crisis he was about to face, as for the first time something other than happiness came into his mind. Previously told the Shibuya High School is one of the top schools, its impressive acceptance rate is achieved through after-school support, with this student below 80 or so must attend 3-hour after special lessons until their grades recovered. Faced with the crisis, Hajime is met with depression as he is now worried about overcoming the limit. Although Kurokawa cheered him up as he just needed to review, Hajime revealed only getting into the school by pure luck, which he lacks confidence in himself to be able to pass. Although he promised to still talk to her, he only reminded her on his needs to focus on his study more and might not be able to stay in school afterwards. With confidence he exclaims, passing over 80, although as his back is turned towards her he became depressed, still pondering how he will overcome this crisis. Back at home, Hajime is dreadful about his situation as he doesn't have confidence to score over 80, pondering about Kurokawa if she's already enjoying reading the love manga. He ponders as Kurokawa will ace the test with ease compared to him. Early in the morning, Hajime is seen tired and eyes that haven't seen much sleep, as everyone him is way more competent than him, and he bets none of them would face any hardship for the exam like he does. Although he looked towards Kurokawa as she seemed to have bags under her eyes, seemingly spending the whole night studying, she noticed his glance over him as she looks at him with a zombified look, asking to borrow his time after school. As the two are alone, Kurokawa handed over a piece of paper, consisting the summary and notes, for each subjects. With determination, a reenactment of the scene on love manga is once again, as she imitated the exact scene word for word in the manga, leaving Hajime in shock. As she realized this, she apologizes for not intentionally trying to imitate the heroine. More importantly, Hajime seems worried as she stayed up late at night whilst also reading, meaning she barely slept at all. He became concerned for her health, grabbing her by the shoulders, urging her to get some proper rest and take care of her body. As she realized his actions, he immediately apologized, as Kurokawa is taken by surprise, as it's rare for someone to worry about her, especially for studying. But the sudden realization kicks in towards Hajime, as this is seen as the norm, especially to a lady like her. With the efforts made by Kurokawa, he pushes on through with confidence. But for some reason Kurokawa skipped with her feet all the way home, indicating her happiness. Thus Takashi is surprised by Kurokawa's notebook, being amazed as she summarized the whole page of key points in just one line, making it super easy to understand. Add to the fact she finished this all in one night. Sleeping for only 30 minutes, she pushed herself hard, not just for him but for their after-school gatherings. As her little sister was ordered to not disturb his big brother, she caught a glimpse of him making weird noises, doing something strange, but he denies the accusation. Tomorrow at school, Takashi, knowing that Kurokawa did her best for him, gets motivated, not wanting to waste a second of his break time studying the hardest he could. On the other hand, Kurokawa is approached multiple times by her classmate. Takashi saw this and indicated she was pretty popular in the classroom. Knowing this, he ponders that it's not rude of her talking about being all alone even if he's not around, pondering that Kurokawa doesn't seem to have any issues. He suddenly overheard Kurokawa being questioned if she read manga, shocking Takashi, wondering what her answers might be, although Kurokawa outright questions this, giving the satisfaction exclaiming she won't be indulging in vulgar things, shocking Takashi on what kind of conversation they are having. He ponders if this is what it feels like when an individual's parents and classmates expects you to have highbrow hobbies, although they don't meant any harm. As it must be exhausting to deal with this all the time, seeing how she secretly acts and be herself around him, although he brushed this off, stopping overthinking of things, focusing hard on him. He pushed himself to the limits, listening to the lessons and cramming hard on studying to get over 80 points. The day finally arrives on the day of the test, being nervous as the test papers are handed out. Upon seeing the questions, it became clear and easy to understand, as this is the part he studies on his own. Knowing the answers immediately, Kurokawa noticed his demeanor and smiled in silence. After the exam, he suddenly get a text from Kurokawa pondering how his exam went. He answered in confidence of scoring above 80. But Kurokawa ponders that he shouldn't say it too soon, as shortly after her hunch was correct, as he managed to score 77 on the exams, shocking him. His life events suddenly flashed before his eyes, exclaiming his death will serve as payment for his foolishness. The teacher suddenly breaks the news about the last question on the exam, including something she hasn't covered, calling for the student who got the last question wrong, making an exception, letting him pass. He then immediately shouted in happiness, exclaiming he got it wrong, claiming to the whole class he almost failed. Sitting in silence, the teacher suddenly gets angry, asking him to do some review instead of being proud for making mistakes, giving Kurokawa a sense of relief upon hearing his words. Shortly in the library, Takashi excitedly announces his passing, staying above the safe line in all subjects, thanking for her efforts on making him pass. Kurokawa sees this as a success, encouraging herself to help him score even higher. Takashi looks at her in silence, pondering why she is serious all of a sudden. He questions her about the Chapter 5 of Love Math, which she excitedly revealed doing so, being so expressive, talking enthusiastically about her thoughts and opinions on the chapter. As their days continue happily expressing their thoughts, she immediately stood up, asking to go into the restroom. As she finishes her business, she suddenly gets called out. The twin-tail woman asks if she could have a moment of her time. She agrees but asks her to come down from the stairs. This immediately made her refuse, as it's not important, giving the weird creepy vibes. After she got back, upon opening the door, Takashi is slumped down half asleep with the notes on his lap. The papers fell. Seeing it, she picked it up, discovering it's the notes she made, seeing all of the hand sweat wrinkling them and the writing fading, indicating he used it so much, giving her satisfaction knowing so. As he was asleep, she thanked him for all his hard work, being thankful towards him, as for the first time in her life she actually looked forward to after-school activities. Being thankful for putting in so much effort in her showing her affection grew. She went ahead and admit of just kidding with her words, but in reality it all came from her heart. As Takashi-kun wakes up from his sleeping, he gets worried if he was talking weird in his sleep. Kurokawa confirms he wasn't weird talking in his sleep. Takashi suddenly mentions about the Love Math manga celebrating its 10th anniversary fair at the anime shop. He enthusiastically talked about securing stickers and buying collections. He planned on going next Sunday, but Kurokawa suggests if it would be okay joining him that far. This shocked Takashi, as he never expected she would initiate joining her, but with that said, there was no reason to refuse her request. As the day arrives, Takashi is waiting at the mochi tree to meet with her. He ponders about his looks, not being conscious about fashion at all. He ponders what kind of outfit Kurokawa would wear, as she seems the type to go out with fashion in mind, as in the Love Math the main character went on her first date with the protagonist wearing all black, but he doubts if she would go that far. He suddenly looks at his phone for women's fashion, seeing the no pants style becoming the rage. This ultimately gave him a shock of worry, as there is a slim chance that Kurokawa might show up in this outfit. Out of nowhere, he gets called out. Seeing Kurokawa, he breathes a sigh of relief, being glad to see her show up in normal clothing. Takashi, seeing her, looks like the main character. He finds her cute. He seemingly mentions her name, but is stopped by Kurokawa as she insists he must not say her name as much as possible, as she doesn't want people around her to notice her, indicating the trouble would come if people knew she was with her. Although she denies this reasoning, as it's fine for her being with him. She tried explaining in elementary school she snuck out of the house one time to buy a manga at a bookstore in town. When her father found out, her manga was thrown away, as the bookstore owner, who recognized her face from a photo, called to thank her father's company, as right now she can't fully grasp my father's or grandfather's social connections anymore. She feared if the things she bought today ever gets found out, it would be thrown away. As such, she won't be able to handle it, Takashi sees this as a strong love for the Love Mav manga. Understanding her situation, he is assured of not letting anyone find out. He puts his words out as it's like being on a secret date, finding it thrilling and fun. Kurokawa ponders if this is a date, which he panics due to the slip of his tongue, denying it, although this made her sad all of a sudden. He explains of clearly inviting her to a proper date and not through vague tactics like this, indicating he would be glad to date her, although he suddenly realized that he is declaring he would be inviting her to a real date. Being too carried away, he finds the situation bad as it might be off-putting. But on a closer look, she seems fine with the idea and doesn't find it weird. As they went ahead to the anime shop, he still ponders as this is not a date, and yet he couldn't even look her properly in the eyes. As they tried to head down the stairs nearing their destination, he called out to Kurokawa but couldn't seem to find her whereabouts. As he tried looking for her, Kurokawa is seen running at full speed, explaining she got separated, being swept away by the crowd. As Takashi looks away for a brief moment, she then once again gets carried by the crowd of people. Shortly after getting back, she explains of never walking through a crowded area, finding it alien as people always step aside for her. Although she managed to get there on time, she revealed waking up at 5 a.m. for a 9:30 meeting. Seeing her determination, he asks to stick as close as together if possible, lending her a collar that's connected to his bag. Upon walking, they somehow found it strange as it's like walking a dog, not wanting to go with the idea it's fine if they just stick together. They also came clear of calling each other's name as to not find it troublesome, but also to get acquainted to one another. They then settled for Yeo-san, but hearing the words called out to her, she finds it heart-throbbing. Upon arriving to the anime shop, she became mesmerized seeing all the manga-related items. Looking at each item in the store, she exclaims the excitement she gets of encountering the unknown. He then suddenly pointed out to the Love Mav special feature corner. This made Takashi take pictures excitedly, talking how it's not usual for the manga to be on a flat display as for new releases depending on the stock amount, clearly being a miracle. She leans down seeing the alternate cover version of the manga. Takashi saw this as she gazed in silence, stealing her smile away. We cut back to days before the date. Takashi questions his little sister's girl opinion on the outfit from a girl's point of view. As he pulls out a shirt, she called him gross, pondering if he mugged someone for it. At school that day, she talks with her friends on being forced to help pick his brother's clothes for his date. His friends tried praising her brother of studying at the Shubi High School, calling it impressive. But she bad-mouths his brother for being an otaku who has nothing better to do than study. A male classmate suddenly noticed her talking about her brother's lame personality. But she then gets hostile, questioning who he is to talk about her brother like that. Her friends revealed that she is secretly a brocon, asking not to touch that nerve of her. She then exclaims on Sunday they will gather at the station to spy on his brother's date. The little sis revealed that he might be getting tricked, wanting to protect him, and will try to take down the woman that's deceiving him. She shortly excused herself to the restroom, but upon exiting she bumped into someone. The salaryman didn't take it nicely and shouted at her. But even so, Kurokawa steps in, wanting to get the police involved, but also pointing there are cameras here to prove everything. This made the salary con man to back off and ran away. The little sister became enraged, which Kurokawa revealed seeing the man in front of the restroom wandering back and forth, keeping an eye on his actions. She thanked Kurokawa for helping her, revealing that waking up at 5 in the morning for her meetup is worth it. She finds Kurokawa odd but definitely a good person, although she gets questioned if it's a date, but she doesn't seem to be sure either. Revealing this is the first time she is going to a place like and not wanted to be late or waste their meetup's time. Finding her situation to be in the not quite dating stage, she bids her farewell. Upon going back, he then saw her brother's date. Upon realizing it was Kurokawa, they then leave, knowing full well if it's her they would be alright, giving the sister certification to her. Back to the present, Kurokawa is still mesmerized as she realized the alternate version of Love Mav was the one book that she absolutely got from the bookstore from her childhood. This revelation shocked them both, as it was apparently she judged manga based solely on their covers, not realizing up until now. She then excused herself, asking to wait outside, leaving Takashi alone to ponder, as she remembers the flashback of having her manga book be thrown when she was a kid by her father, destroying her happiness. She then immediately wonders, even though it was indirect, she was once threw the manga away, not having the rights to enjoy it, almost pushing the button to uninstall it. She then suddenly gets surprised as Takashi revealed buying a lot of things showcasing the stickers and buying some for her, asking she should hide them in a no suspicious book to avoid her parents finding it, and besides everyone uses electronic dictionaries so they won't even know, and since it might be impossible to get them later on. He buys her a copy of the alternate version, although she tried rejecting this as it might get thrown away and not having to bring herself to read it anymore. But he then called out that giving up on reading out of guilt is a waste, and seeing as how much she enjoyed the manga, it won't be judging her for her past actions. Seeing as to how she would be able to find enjoyment reading it even in secret, he would hold on to this as a sort of wish, asking if the day comes when the Kurokawa-sama can read manga freely without worrying others. He hopes she still has the passion and encouragement to love reading mangas as much as she does now. Wanting to wait for that day to truly come, he hopes they still continue to be close enough so he could gift it back to her. This suddenly made her teared up, showcasing her happiness, being thankful and glad she met Takashi-kun, asking until the day comes she asks to take good care of it. Although she insists on paying for it, he then doubles down, giving it as a gift, exclaiming of going all through the trouble to look cool, and it would be all for naught if she paid. At that exact moment, he still didn't notice the change in Kurokawa-san. Shortly after, they took a seat at a restaurant, and seeing the great opportunity to cool off. Although she ponders how did he knew she was feeling under. Although it's obvious from the start, as they were walking around she became looking more and more like a boiled octopus. This made him hope that she would at least wear something lighter, but he became mesmerized on her under the hood. She ponders if her outfit was weird, as it's her maid that usually chooses for her, revealing the outfit to be her personal choice today. After a while, he questions if it's alright calling her on that nickname, as it might be troublesome if a classmate finds out. She slowly affirms it's fine to do so, as she doesn't think she will ever meet people from over there again. He then expresses his greatest condolences, giving the misunderstanding that the people she was referring to have passed away. She explains her past, as in the first grade she completely ruined her school life once, as in elementary her parents had her attend an elite private academy. Being so naive about the world back then, it wasn't guaranteed that everyone shared the same thoughts or values. As such, her parents were usually very generous and let her spend freely as long as it's not for frivolous things. This made her spend her money however her classmate wanted to just be liked by them. But one day suddenly, she realized that she failed at building relationships, as her classmates called her out for being stingy. Takashi finds this troublesome, as compared to him he made a pillbug rice bowls, getting scolded for it. Kurokawa later on found the whole situation turned into a big problem later on, which she fled and transferred to a school in England where no one knew her, which she got the nickname Yoi-san and wouldn't be an issue if used in Japan. She then happily talks about having someone other than her family buy something for her, making her happy, as it's her first ever gift. She cried so much due to the happiness. She then excused herself for a moment, leaving Takashi to ponder, as it made his heart feel heavy from all the weight she is shouldering ever since then. Knowing full well himself there is only much he could do, but no matter how hard it is, he still wants her to smile. Kurokawa in the restroom finds her eye a bit swollen from crying earlier. She ponders if Takashi-kun saw her ugly face, indicating that it's a good thing this wasn't a date. She then suddenly mesmerized on how cool looking and matured he was back there. Back at the table, he reveals not being mature at all and just used to eating alone. Going to ramen shops and wanting to eat pancakes at a stylish cafe has been one of his dreams. Add to that it's hard to go in alone as a guy. They gladly agreed of going to choose this place to try out new stuff. He then questions if she has time after this, wanting to stroll around the place for a bit. spending their day off, doing things together, and having fun. But in the end she realized she was this happy due to Takashi being by her side. As the day ends they soon see parting ways, revealing that it's Kurokawa's first time using the ticket gate, clapping for her success. Takashi soon see her ticket and insisted on going to the nearest station with her, worried for her safety. In the end she accepted. As the train is arriving she seemed to reach out as Takashi grabbed her hand, not wanting to be separated. In the train they only stood to each other. As their heart beats faster than usual, they arrived at the station sooner than expected. Upon going out of the train, Takashi let her hands go, seemingly making her not felt the connection of physical touch. As the day reached an end, getting ready to part ways nearing her exit, she pondered if it's selfish to think this way, as she doesn't want the day to end yet. Takashi suddenly speak up, revealing of not having spent a day off with anyone other than his family. Seeing their time together was fun and not wanting it to end, he thanks her for her time. She then also revealed that it's the same for her, but she suddenly noticed her butler standing, giving her a shock at his appearance. Takashi questions what seems to be wrong. She pointed out the person standing over the butler who always takes care of her, but revealed that she didn't notify him, wondering how they managed to find her whereabout. He immediately understood the whole situation, as this is the part where he gets caught for sneaking her out and receiving one hell of a scolding. Takashi ponders to confirm if he looks angry, but upon a closer look he is absolutely furious about the situation. Seeing as how he made an enemy of the Kurokawa family, he confronts them, wanting to figure something. As they approach him, the butler's words struck him like a moth to the flame, or something, pondering if it's just that. Kurokawa questions if he was waiting for her return the entire time, although he denies this. Her butler revealed of tailing her for her walks since 5 a.m. Takashi apologizes as it was him who dragged her around. The butler affirms if she were forced to spend time with him. She then revealed she was more than glad, as it's the opposite of force, coming here with her own volition. The butler understood, finding no malice, although they are worried about her father, but he reveals being entrusted with the lady's care and don't feel the need to report her mere walk. Seeing this, they felt a sense of relief, seeing as he was angry before ultimately denying this. As Takashi handed the stickers to her, parting ways, they bid farewell, making Takashi exclaims of saving even more and more research, asking to another date, giving the statement that there would be another time they will get to spend their day off like this. She exclaims of wanting to look forward to it, wearing something stylish, knocking his socks off. Takashi is left questioning this, but her butler finds this to be something different. The butler in the car shortly after points out she is a woman and be careful of men being wolves. He then ponders if she had fun today, talking about the pill bug rice bowls being an exquisite dish.